The Jack Nicklaus Sports Center is about 25 miles north of Cincinnati, and it's sold out again today. Semi-final day of the Thriftway ATP Championships from Cincinnati. Stefan Edberg from Sweden, #2 player in the world, will take on from the United States Pete Sampras, who is #3 player in the world, and by the way, seeded #3 in this championship. Very friendly hello to everybody. I'm Cliff Drysdale with the fiery one, Fred Stolle. And Fred, for so many of these players in this championship, it has been a case of from the Olympics on clay to Cincinnati on a hard court.
Correct, Cliff. Obviously, there has been some hardcore tournaments played over here after Wimbledon, but for those who did represent their nation in Olympic competition, this is the first opportunity they've had to play on the hard courts. The ATP Championship is a big one, and it's a lead up to the US Open. And obviously, because of that, we've seen some upsets here.
We've seen some pretty darn fine players too. In fact, the players have shown up here in droves. Why not? It is, as you said, a major championship. He has the seeded player list for this championship. Jim Courier surprised by David Wheaton in straight sets. Stefan Edberg, Pete Sampras, the match that you will see now. They're in the #2 and 3 seeds. Michael Chang, he's still in the championship. Peter Korda beaten by Pete Sampras. Andre Agassi, a big surprise, losing to Jaime Izaga in the 3rd round. He's got throat problems. Guy Forget lost in his first match of this championship. Ivan Lendl is also still alive. Getting back, Fred Stolle, though, to Stefan Edberg of Sweden. Here's a man who has been very successful on hard courts. In fact, no player has won more titles on hard courts in the last couple of years than he has. He's the reigning US Open champ, and he is looking again to the US Open, isn't he?
And he didn't want to come here to start off with, Cliff, because of playing in the Olympics. They've had a tough schedule after Wimbledon, going down and playing for the gold medal. But it was on the insistence of his coach, Tony Pickard, who said, hey, if you want to get there and try and defend your US Open title, you better go and play in Cincinnati. So he took the wild card. He struggled in his first match against Christian Bergstrom, was down a break in the first set, argued a couple of line calls, but got on track. And right at the moment, he's playing some pretty good tennis.
All right, he's playing against a guy who's a very solid hardcourt player. In fact, he's won the US Open, as we all know, Pete Sampras. Interesting thing to me, Fred, is that he has taken so much of this year off and said, I'm going to try to play on the clay, presumably to try to do well in Barcelona, but it didn't work.
It didn't work for him, but Pete Sampras has always been that way. He's put it on the line. He's got out there. He likes to play on all surfaces. He wants to be recognized when his career is finished as an all-court player. So we have the last 2 winners of the US Open coming up in today's semi-final. If they both serve well, it's going to be a great match.
They've played against each other 3 times. Fred, the last time was right here just about a year ago. That match won, surprisingly, I suppose, to many people, by Pete Sampras. So it is Sampras and Edberg, semi-final of the men's singles here in Cincinnati. I suppose the thing that we haven't said about this afternoon is that the playing conditions here, Fred Stolle, are just about perfect. There is no sun and it is not hot, and it can be very warm at this time of the year.
Well, if you remember last year, you see the humidity there, 82% and the chance of rain 40%. They've had problems with the rain here. Temperature today 68 degrees, but last year, Cliff, remember, it was so hot here the last 2 days. It was very tough for the players. This year, though, a couple of weeks ago, they had a lot of rain. Rain washed out matches last night, and they've had intermittent rain throughout the week. But as you said today, you look at Stefan Edberg, his tournament title there in Hamburg on clay, the German Championships. Pretty much perfect. There's a slight breeze. It's the heat is not going to bother the players. If it gets any windier, it will, but I can't foresee that. I'm just going to hope that we don't get any rain.
Stefan Edberg, of course, is from Sweden. He lives now part-time in London, England. He's 6'2", 26-year-old, 170 pounds. He's one of the gentlest, nicest guys that you will ever meet. He's universally loved, really, on the circuit, Stefan Edberg. He never is the subject of any controversy. He is has been very involved in the ATP charities effort, and he is somebody that the players have always said is one of just the nicest guys on the tour, not only the friendliest guys, but the fairest guys as well. Pete Sampras, well, he's won 2 tournaments already so far, Philadelphia and Kitzbühel. He ended up winning at Kitzbühel and hoping to get into the good frame of mind for the Olympics. That unfortunately wasn't to be. A very different surface in Philadelphia on carpet match a lot earlier this year. He's just 21 years old.
Sampras won the toss and chose to serve.
That's a pretty good title for him to win, Sampras on clay, because has not had a lot of clay court experience. European clay court, the American clay court certainly a little different, a little faster, but not so much nowadays, because in the European tournaments they still use the same ball that is used for the ATP Tour now. So that helps the boys as far as the surface is concerned. Still pretty much the same tennis ball. And a big victory for Pete Sampras to win that tournament in Kitzbühel, because it's one of the better of the clay court tournaments after Europe, and a little bit of altitude there because it's up in the mountains as well.
In the past, every time they've played, of course, it has been basically a serve and volley struggle. They played 3 times in all. The last time, as we really told you, Sampras beating Stefan Edberg in straight sets here in the quarterfinals of the Thriftway ATP Championships. The other 2 times that they played, one on hard court and one on a carpet, both won by Stefan Edberg. Edberg actually beat Sampras one time at the ATP finals in Frankfurt on an indoor carpet that is a very, very different surface.
Edberg's played well this week, struggled, but so has Pete Sampras. Pete Sampras was down match point against Australia's Mark Woodford. He lost the first set, was down match point in a tiebreaker in the second set. He went for the passing shot, the backhand pass down the line. Woodford made the backhand volley, and Pete Sampras started walking towards the net because it was an open court volley, and Woodford barely missed the volley by a couple of inches. That kept Sampras in the match. He went on to win the tiebreaker and the match, and now is ready to serve in the semi-final.
Very similar hard-court records, as you can see. Paolo Pereira is in the chair for today's match. He will officiate, make the decisions regarding all the potential problems that may happen out there on the court, but with these two, don't expect any of that.
Both players are pretty good serve and volleyers. They move well at the net. They anticipate. That's the secret to net coverage, is anticipation where your opponent is going to hit passing shots.
(30-15).
In the locker room not so long ago, and Sampras had just got his rackets from the stringers there. The stringers here at this tournament have been kept very busy. They do an excellent job. Just the difference in playing conditions, and Pete took about 4 or 5 rackets from them this morning that had just been strung up.
Second serve.
First game of this best-of-3 set match, and may just be the first game, but you know, as well as these two boys serve, every game is crucial. An early breaker serve could be critical. Volley is wide, 30 all
30
first
all.
game.
Both players tend to kick the second serve, more so Edberg than Sampras. Sampras can deliver the flat one or the slice and go for more velocity on that second serve. Edberg, of course, is known for that big kick second serve. And that will be something that he will need today if he misses a lot of first serves, particularly on the second court, to jump that ball away from Sampras.
That's long, so game point.
40-30.
First game of the match to Pete Sampras. When Sampras beat Stefan Edberg last year here in the quarterfinals, it was the first time in 5 years that Edberg had not played the final of this tournament. He beat Boris Becker back in '87. He played Mats Wilander in '88, lost that one, lost to Brad Gilbert in '89, and then in '90 he destroyed Gilbert in the shortest match in history of this event. He has been passing well this week.
Just
Yeah, you talk about Edberg and you just think about the production of the backhand. It's a much better shot than the way he sets himself up for the forehand. And we talk about strengths and weaknesses, and it's all relative to the ability of the players. Both Edberg and Sampras, you would say, have a weakness on the forehand side, but there's a lot of players on the tour that would like to have that particular forehand.
Another game point for Sampras. As you were saying that
Advantage.
about Edberg, Fred, I
Sampras.
was thinking exactly the same thing that you ended up saying. That for Pete Sampras, you could have said is pretty much a mirror of the way that Edberg is.
He hits his forehand with a little more pace than does Edberg.
game
A little more pace
Sampras.
on the
First
serve
game.
too, probably for Pete Sampras, and he holds on. First game of this best of 3 set match. This is a semi-final of the ATP Championships.
Time.
Hope you're enjoying your afternoon, everybody. Here in the Cincinnati area, we're in Kings Island, Ohio. You're
Edberg
watching the
to serve.
semi-final of the Thriftway ATP Championships. Edberg has lost the first game on Pete Sampras' serve. It's a best of 3 set match. This is game number 2. Edberg of Sweden, the number 2 player in the world, serving.
We've talked to Edberg about that number 2 ranking. He said
No,
at
15.
the start of the year he desperately wanted to be number 1, but he's consoled with the fact that Courier's held that spot. He's got a big lead still. Edberg says, well, number 2's not that bad as long as I can continue to win the matches that count.
Love 30.
Well, he was just thrilled as can be to become number 1 player in the world, and it happened here at this championship when he won it 2 years ago. So I'm sure he has very fond memories of Kings Island.
Edberg missing a backhand volley there, showed a little frustration by whacking the ball into the net. So in this opening service game, a chance for Sampras at love 30. And now a second serve coming his way.
Oh, a lot of power in that forehand hit by Pete Sampras, a lot more than it maybe looked like, and Edberg missed the volley, so here are 3 break points.
That's the one he ran round on the return of serve. Look at the elbow situation, and then he doesn't really go through the ball on the forehand, but that one he hit with a lot of pace, so it's 3 break points now. And as Cliff mentioned, an early service break in a match like this can start you on a roll, because both these fellas go for the serve. They are serve and volleyers, as you've seen right from the start of this match. And a double fault there, so without winning a point on his serve in his opening service match, Sampras has the break.
And Pete Sampras didn't have to do a heck of a lot to win that too. A couple of unforced errors and then a double fault from Edberg, and Sampras leads to zip, as you say.
You mentioned the Silver Fox, as he is affectionately known with his friends. Tony Pickard, the coach of Stefan Edberg, is here. It's the earliest that he's been to the States for quite some time. That's Tony Pickard there, and Annette Edberg now. It was Annette Olsen, who travelled with Stefan for quite a while. They were married just a few months ago.
Married in the springtime. 30 love. So Pete Sampras, let's see, that's 4 points, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row, Fred, at this point.
Your math's getting better.
Thank you.
An excellent closing volley there from Sampras. It was set up with the deep forehand approach, and Edberg couldn't get much on the backhand there. He whips this one and it's deep in the corner, and watch this. See how he runs forward and makes that volley. He knew it was a slow ball from Edberg, put it away for a winner.
Game point, second serve for his 10th straight point, Pete Sampras.
The lesson to be learnt for you folks at home that are starting to be a little bit more aggressive with your tennis is that by Pete Sampras moving in and attacking that volley, he gets the ball in a more comfortable position around about chest high or waist high, rather than just waiting for the ball to come to him, where he might have to play it round about his ankles or down a little bit lower.
Pete Sampras has had an easy day at the office so far, leading Stefan Edberg, the #2 player in the world, by 3 games to love in the first set. Just across Highway 71 is things called the Beast or Whitewater Canyon, or this one, the Vortex. A lot of fun to be had at Kings Island, Ohio. We'll be back with more of our coverage from Kings Island of the ATP Championships.
Time.
This championship used to be almost an all-Sweden affair. Boris Becker won it in 85, Mats Wilander in 86, Edberg won it in 87, and then again Wilander, Brad Gilbert. Remember, he played against Edberg in the final, then Edberg turned the tables on him the next year. So 1991 was the first year that there had not been a Swede in the final for a long time. Guy Forget, of course, beat Pete Sampras last year. Here is Edberg serving, trailing 3-love first set.
And Edberg has won only 4 of 17 points played. So it's certainly been a very quick start for Pete Sampras. And a foot fault on a second serve is certainly not going to help his cause. That's a double fault. Every match we telecast, Stefan Edberg gets caught for a foot fault, but not quite as early as this, and very rarely on a second serve. And he does stay very close to the line, and it's the back foot that drags and comes up and touches the line there with the toe as he jumps up and leaps into the serve.
Yeah, he wants to use every ounce of the court, doesn't he? I mean, he gives himself so little margin for error on the foot fault. Watch. Fine as long as he lets that right foot stay back, but when he pulls it up, it just steps on the line, and that's when they call it on him. Love 30.
Yeah, but if he kept it back, if he started off with the front foot with the left foot just 2 or 3 inches behind, then that back foot still wouldn't come that far forward. It would still be behind the line, even though it's touching the ground.
Edberg has only won 1 point in the last 13.
And I don't think it would make that much difference to his serve. That's the first point that he's won on serve.
15-13.
Well, he's not out of the set by any means. If he can come back here, he's just 1 break of serve down. On the other hand, if Sampras can break again, then that should be all she wrote for this first set. Edberg felt like the call was probably should have been wide on his serve.
I think Sampras felt exactly the same way. He just flayed at that return and it was in. Paulo Pereira, very rarely will you find the chair umpire overrule anything that's on that far sideline. But I believe Sampras thought that was a fault as well.
That call could not have been any further away from Paulo Pereira. Players have talked. Agassi said that he thought that the officiating here in Cincinnati was about as bad as at any tournament anywhere.
Foot
of course,
fault
that was
again.
after he lost.
That's another foot fault call from Stefan Edberg, so he's not having a good day. It was after Agassi lost, and the supervisors disagreed with Agassi's opinion of the umpiring. Agassi, to his defence, said, I don't mean to make an issue of it, but some of the calls that he had watched during the week were a little suspect. I think it's a tough job to sit out there and call these matches.
I don't know how they do it, especially on a hard court where there's no mark. Still break point for a second break here for Sampras. Oh, what a volley. Keep him in this game.
Deuce.
And Pete Sampras, knowing if he can get 2 breaks here, has got the first set locked up, goes for the big backhand, just up a little bit too high. And Stefan Edberg at full stretch, still moving forward with a firm wrist, makes the volley into the corner.
Another breakpoint opportunity for Pete Sampras. Now, Tom Gullickson is the head of the USTA Player Development Program. Well, that's not Tom, that's Tim, but they look dead alike because they are twins.
How do you know that's Tim? Because there's a name up there. That's about the only way
because I know he coaches
know.
Pete Sampras. That's why he's watching
as we do.
it.
Yeah, it's true. But both the twins, terrific fellas and very popular in the sport and good coaches.
Breakpoint.
Oh, well played. Sampras' strength is on that return of serve, and he's showing it today. Yeah, he steps in. He's a good 6 feet inside the baseline. Good shoulder rotation. And Edberg is looking for a cross court here. That's where the Sampras return has gone. And you could see he was starting to move that way and found the backhand go right past him down the line.
Oh, yes. Playing very confidently as well. Pete Sampras hasn't been a good day for Edberg by any means, but Sampras is not letting up.
And this just shows you a half volley there, and it worked well for him because it got Edberg out of court, and it was a great stretch volley. He knew that he just had to get it over the net to win it.
Kind of shot Fred that actually he almost I think he was looking for that backhand to go down the line, but he was able to recover, you know. And then Edberg's got to be saying to himself, excuse me, what the heck can I do today? This guy's just all over everything. So far, of course.
Well, if you remember the year Sampras won the US Open, from the quarterfinals on, he started on a streak, and everybody said, well, he can't play like that for 3 or 4 matches, and he did. Good kick second serve there. You saw Stefan Edberg really having to try and jump to get that one back into play. 80 miles an hour, that second serve.
Game Sampras.
103 mile an hour, that second serve.
And Edberg must be wondering what the heck he can do about
Sampras
this onslaught.
leads
5 games
all.
to love, Sampras. 2 breaks, first set. We'll be back.
Time.
Outstanding tennis on television. This has been an outstanding set so far for Pete Sampras, not so much for Stefan Edberg. 5 games to love. This is Edberg trying to win his first game.
In a situation like this, people say, well, what an awful match. It depends on which way you look at it. From Stefan Edberg's point of view, it has not been a good one.
15
but
love.
he has not been allowed to get into this match by Pete Sampras. Sampras started off breaking serve and has continued to be aggressive, and that's the luxury, that if you can break serve early, you can hit out on your opponent's serve, knowing that you've got to lose your own to get back to even. And at this stage, Edberg has lost 2 service games. Because that's the first time Edberg has not served and volleyed on second serve, because the respect that he has had for the Sampras return, he said, well, let's mix it up. I'll stay back and see what happens. So Edberg in danger of winning his first game here.
Game point, Edberg.
Correction.
It's difficult to call Edberg serve Cliff more so than Sampras, I think, because Paulo Pereira overruled that because of the excessive topspin. It dips very quickly at the last minute. Makes it tough for the Lions people.
Game Edberg.
So Edberg's on the board. Broken his duck, as they say in cricket. He has one game at least. 5 games to 1.
Sampras leads 5-1.
First set. Fred, when we played the ATP Senior Tournament out in the desert, Indian Wells earlier this year, it struck me. I mean, we were playing doubles, and ball was not going near as hard or as fast as these boys hit the ball, and we still got a very high number of what I thought anyway were bad calls. It's just very difficult to call under these circumstances.
Yeah. Well, the last one you saw 103 miles an hour, an ace on the second serve from Sampras. That one 116 miles an hour. But it was a fault.
Law 15.
Edberg trying to get involved in some rallies now. A bit late for this first set, but he's got to try and keep his concentration level up.
For Pete Sampras, this is his first
15 all.
hardcourt tournament since the, well, I guess hardcourt event, because the Davis Cup is not really a tournament. Let's watch this again first, though.
There's the first backhand volley, and it's a lob volley played. This is like a dream team slam dunk overhead.
15 all. Terrific backhand pass from Stefan Edberg, cross-court clean winner. Sampras didn't hardly even make a move for it.
Well, he moved the other way. If you watch this, Edberg waits till the very last minute to play this. Held it till the very last moment. Sampras had committed himself to go down the line, and it allowed that room for Edberg to make the cross-court topspinner.
Very good volley from Sampras, because Edberg's passing shot actually clipped the tape, but Sampras kept his cool.
30 all.
Sampras has not been able to do anything wrong at the net. He got that one and turned into a good volley, and it sets up another overhead. Only this time a backhand smash, safely played for a winner.
I was going to say moments ago that when Pete Sampras played Peter Corder in Florida, Sanibel Harbor in the Davis Cup, it was his last hardcourt match before the event here at the Kings Island, Ohio.
It's his second ace today, Sampras.
He spent all of his time in Europe, either on clay or on grass. Oh. So one set point saved by Stefan Edberg.
Just.
And another perfect volley here, and he's looking for the one down the line. Look where Sampras had moved, and it was not the angle off this forehand. Watch how much air he gives it. We could have seen it floats up about 10 feet, and Sampras couldn't reach it, and it fell in.
First.
Deuce.
Advantage Edberg.
Well, a break point now for Edberg. It's too late in this first set, but It'll give him a little bit of confidence as the second set starts, but you never can tell. 2 service breaks, it's been done before, but you wouldn't expect it today the way Sampras has started off. That one's wide. So Stefan Edberg breaks serve for the first time, and it's Pete Sampras getting a little bit careless, still leading 5 games to 2.
Sampras 5 games to 2 over Stefan Edberg, but Sampras has now been broken once, so that 5-2 lead represents just 1 service break. Take a look at the draw for this championship as things were a little earlier in it. Wheaton over Jim Courier, big surprise. Lendl over Pierre Lin. Chang and Izaga are still playing, so that top half semi-final man who will play against Lendl tonight has yet to be decided, and we won't know that until after this match is completed here. This is the section that you're watching. Sampras and Edberg. Peter Korda beat Richard Krajicek, 2 big servers. Then Sampras, another big server, beating Korda. Edberg over Jimmy Grab of the USA. He beat Amos Mansdorf, number 15 seed, in the round of 16.
Swedish flag there. Jimmy Grab had a good tournament. It was in the first round that he took out Marc Rosset, and if you watch the Olympics, Marc Rosset was a surprise winner of the gold medal in the men's division, the singles at Barcelona. He came here and was a little tired, as most of the athletes that came from Barcelona were a little weary because conditions there, as far as accommodation and playing conditions, pretty tough. No air conditioning in the rooms at the village, and very hot conditions, over 100 degrees when the players were asked to play matches best of 5 sets.
I asked Edberg about this morning. I said the rooms were kind of small, weren't they? He said, well, it wasn't so much that, but because you just said that there was no AC and it was very hot.
There's a match update. First serve percentages pretty even, but the winners have come from Sampras's racket, the errors from Edberg.
Pretty even and pretty low on first serve percentages, and the first serve is a very big statistic for both of these guys, isn't it? Oh.
15 all.
There's no reason for that. It was just the pace of shot that beat Edberg, and you can see him showing disgust that he never picked that up. It hit the frame of the racket. Oh, what a return.
15-30.
Sampras hitting his backhand with a little more topspin than I think you'll see in a couple of weeks, because on the clay it requires that shot more so. It requires a little more topspin on the clay than it does on this Deco turf surface.
good. Oh, break point opportunity for Stefan Edberg. I'm not sure that when he made that first volley, he should have hit the ball because I believe it was going to go wide. A big break for Pete Sampras, if that's true.
Yeah, that brings up set point here. This one, I agree with you, Cliff. I think it was floating out. You can see where he makes that shot. It's about 2 feet above the court, and he's right on the sideline when he executed that forehand volley.
Break point and set point, Sampras. Pete Sampras has just lost his serve. Last time he served, you know, 2 breaks up. This is Edberg serving at 2-5, but you know that Sampras is beginning to wonder whether he should not try to close this thing out now, not have to serve for it.
There's a helicopter hovering around that has caused both players to have a look up. I'm sure it's somebody trying to take some photographs of this packed stadium.
Game point for Edberg.
This is the man's trademark. The kick serve, the stutter step, the volley out in front, drops the head of the racket on that one, takes the pace off it, but gets the right angle on the shot. So it's game point.
Oh, yeah. Pete Sampras was saying before this match, after the match, that he wanted to get to this round. He said it's going to be a matter of who gets to the net first. Edberg's going to be wanting to get in, and so am I. Edberg hung back that time, and he paid the price.
Well, by going in and attacking, he was down 5-love, so he started to stay back and try and rally, and it's worked for him. Paul Flory and his organisation do a tremendous job here at the ATP. They have around about 1,000 volunteers, from transportation to housing. An excellent job to keep the players happy. And a double fault now.
Keeps
second one.
Happy.
Yeah, that's 2 double faults from Edberg, and what a terrible time. And the planes are a bit of a problem at the moment, and it's a set point again, the second one.
While you were saying something about Paul Flory in the tournament, for people, I'm not sure that people really understand, even here in Cincinnati, that this will be one of the major championships on the ATP Tour starting in 1993.
There's one of the helicopters we've been talking about. There's a couple of them floating around at the moment.
Game in first set.
So Stefan Edberg,
6-2.
in a big surprise, loses that first set very easily. We remind you that Sampras beat Edberg here a year ago in the quarterfinals. First set to Pete Sampras, 6-2.
That was an easy overhead. Just a little bit of mistiming because he hit the ball solidly right in the middle of the racket, but it just jammed right into the top of the tape. As Sampras looking around and saying, hey, what's going on here?
It is very disconcerting to have those choppers hovering overhead. It really is. And of course, it's nice to have great pictures of the stadium, but if that's a tournament helicopter, I wish they'd just call them and say, come home. First point, second set.
15-love.
Mike Patrick, Joe Thun. Thirty love, Sampras.
Third ace. Oh. Well, that ball was nearly behind Pete Sampras when he made that backhand cross court, and what an angle he created. Watch where he gets caught here. He's caught behind the baseline with an excellent return, nearly behind him, and he slices down and through the ball and across court and over the lowest part of the net. Good percentage play.
Very solid volley. He's come up with some really brilliant shots, Pete Sampras, but overall he's just played very solid tennis, and Stefan Edberg is facing the consequences. First set to Sampras, 6-2, and he has won the first game of the second set on serve.
That's the way things looked in the first set. You mentioned the first set percentages down for both players, a very important aspect there, but Sampras with 14 winners, the unforced errors 11, and the break chances there. Sampras, Edberg actually served 4 times in that first set and was broken 3 of those times. So with a return of serve from Sampras, his strength, and the time of the first set, 35 minutes. Brian Teacher on the right-hand side of your screen there with Tim Gullickson, and Gullickson with Pete Sampras.
Brian Teacher worked for some with Andre Agassi last year.
Yeah, and he's with Jimmy Grab at the moment. And Brian Teacher, of course, won the Australian Open down under quite a few years ago. Now plays a couple of tournaments on the senior circuit. Man with a big serve and a long reach.
Another man with a big serve and a long reach is serving right now, Stefan Edberg. But he's had trouble. He's only won 1 serve game in the match, and he's at love 15 now.
He's not reaching far enough today. He's just been blitzed by that return of serve from Sampras.
Second set of this match. Prize money $187,500 to the winner. The winner of this match will take home $98,600, and they have already pocketed nearly $52,000.
Just checking second round there. There's 17 points and $7,000 odd.
Let me tell him why, Fred.
I got to keep.
Sand Stolly got in the second round. Yeah,
Sand lost in the second round to Michael Chang, so I just got to keep abreast of how much money the kid's making. I want a piece of it.
30-15.
Look at Stefan Edberg. Over $11.5 million in career prize money. He's made over 649, nearly 650,000 this year.
That's before this event. In trouble on the serve today. He's been foot faulted on 3 occasions, and by different lines people, not by the same person. He's having a problem with his back foot. You can see. Most of the time he gets foot faulted on the deuce court, because that's where he lines up a little bit more front on, and he has to come round the serve the other way, around the outside of the ball. Very rarely they get foot faulted to the ad court. So this time he's faced up and he's got to come round, rotate the body. There's that foot nearly on that line again. On the second serve to the other court, he's got a lot further to drag that foot just because the way he lines up to serve.
Game point, Edberg.
Fault number 4.
Both of them lost to Andre in Barcelona. Pete Sampras lost to Andre Cherkasov of the CIS. And Stefan Edberg lost to Andre Chesnikov in straight sets.
Game, Edberg.
Edberg holds on 1 game all, second set.
1 game all.
Asked Edberg this morning how he enjoyed Barcelona. He said, well, I wasn't there for very long. He lost in the first round, but he carried the flag for Sweden, and it was a very proud moment for him.
I think all the athletes, the tennis players that we've spoken to, Cliff, really enjoyed the thrill of the opening ceremony, even though it took like 6-7 hours by the time they got dressed and waited to go in the arena and waited for the performances. But a thrill of a lifetime. Oh, that's bad. That ball must have just totally got away from him.
For Pete Sampras, when you win the US Open and then you win the ATP Championships, you gather a few dollars at the same time. So far this year, $548,000 prize money. Mind you that Sampras' biggest results this year in Philadelphia, which he won, that was his biggest tournament actually, but he also on clay won in Europe.
Kitzbühel.
Beat Mancini in the Kitzbühel final. It was the week before the Olympics. Game point Sampras.
And it was the first serve that set that one up, got the low reply and the topspin backhand. So Pete Sampras, helped by that serve, goes to the lead, 2-1, leads at 1 set to love.
Time.
This is the Thriftway ATP Championships from not far from Cincinnati, Ohio, in Kings Island, Ohio. 6-2 first set. Sampras 2-1. Sampras leads in the second set. This is Edberg serving.
Ball was called long. Sampras return. Sampras said he believed it'd be the player that got to the net first. Stefan Edberg has changed his game now. He served and stayed back on a first serve there, obviously because of the return of serve.
Sampras has had an outstanding year, of course, and you're in real trouble against him if you let him win the first set. As you can see, he's lost 4 matches all year after winning the first set.
That just proves the point that he is a good front runner, and when you're in front, you can afford to take a few more risks on serve and return of serve.
Look at that, though. It is balanced by the fact that Stefan Edberg, Fred, has won more matches than he has lost after losing the first set.
Game.
Step back again on the first serve, and you can see Edberg now actually is practicing his serve. He just can't believe he's having this bad a day on the serve. Absolutely struggling, but he's still in the second set at 2-all.
I've sometimes found, I don't know whether this is something that you have found, or that Tony Pickard, the man that you're looking at the left of your screen there alongside Stefan Edberg's wife. I wonder if he's ever thought this, that if you stay back, sometimes it helps the rhythm of your serve just a little bit.
And also, the other factor is that your opponent then doesn't go for as big a return, as Sampras still continues to serve and volley. He's not going to stay back. That's where he's been winning from. And puts away the overhead. But if you change up and you decide to stay back, then your opponent, who's been cracking returns at your feet or going for returns, starts to just try and get the ball back into play a little more.
And he was very nearly right.
An excellent volley, this first one, though. Look at the depth of shot on a faster court like this. And Edberg's running backwards. He's running back towards the fence before he cracks that one. And Sampras, good enough to keep his eye on the ball.
Fortunate.
This is the volley we're talking about, where this one, the first one, that's the first backhand. Now, watch this. He says, I've got it, no, and they just ripped that forehand at him, and good reflexes, and he did a 180 just to check that he'd got it back into play.
Game point. He went for it, but he couldn't get there in enough time. The game's over, so he decided to take a run to the other side of the court anyway. With 3 games to 2, Sampras. Sampras won the first 6-2.
There you go. We saw that Big Dipper over there. I think I'd be much happier riding one of these horses. That no problems there. You can sit down and relax. That's more your style too, Cliff. You wouldn't like that Big Dipper thing that we saw earlier, would you? Huh?
No, stay away from that.
I'd stay on that. Yeah, there's some folks enjoying the day. It's.
Tell you what, this is a major event here in Cincinnati, by the way. If you don't know the Cincinnati area, we're in Kings Island, which is about 25 miles or so. It takes you about half an hour to drive from downtown Cincinnati out here. It is the home of Procter & Gamble, home of General Electric. William Howard Taft was born here. You can take a terrific cruise on the Delta Queen, have dinner on it, show and dancing and stuff like that on the Ohio River.
That's where you're taking the crew tonight for dinner, isn't it? Aren't we going on the boat tonight for dinner? Your deal?
Let me give some thought to that, Fred, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
But don't hang by the end of the phone.
But don't make a reservation.
Right.
All right.
Edberg serving 2-3, second set.
15 love.
Talked about how these boys would do at the net. Edberg only 50%, and they've both been into the net the same number of times, pretty much close to it. They have now, and Sampras is the one that's on top.
30.
And that the difference has been the return of serve. That's been the key today, and this young man, Pete Sampras, has had it going his way. But things can change around because Edberg is hanging in there in the second set. And often that's all it takes. If you can hang in there and say, well, Pete can't just continue to muscle and hit my serve that way all the time.
$30-15.
30-15. We were talking about this championship, and I was trying to make the point, and will again, that the ATP Championships, Swiftway ATP Championships next year will be one of the 9 major ATP worldwide events. And I'll explain to you in a minute what that means. Virtually all of the top players will be required to play in all 9 events so that they feel comfortable guaranteeing every one of them at least 6 of the top 8 players.
40-15.
There are the 9 tournaments. There are only 3 in the United States. One is Indian Wells, the other one is Lipton. The third is this one right here in Cincinnati, the Canadian Open, and this one, the Swiftway ATP. The other 5 are all in Europe.
Called wide, that one, and that means that we'll be bringing you more coverage next year of those 9 tournaments, and you'll be seeing it all on ESPN.
Should mention the Canadian Open as well, which is not in the United States, but of course it's North America.
Called wide, but it's still game point to Edberg.
The point is, it's a tremendous feather in the cap for this tournament, and it should be recognized as such.
Called wide again.
Little hesitation from Edberg, and Pete Sampras looked at the lines person. He finally called it out, so we're back at deuce.
So he's had 2 very close calls here in a row. This one, a lot of the folks, you know, that tough one to call, 2 in a row. The crowd is starting to whistle in behind there.
Sampras taking advantage of a couple of those close calls you're talking about, Fred. He's got a break point.
Edberg with a big serve on this one, and the first volley gets the angle, but it's the reply angle, a little dink. Look how low he has to get down to try and reach that one. He was looking for the backhand down the line, and Sampras, playing as well as he is today, created that angle, and now a break point opportunity in this second set. 7th game of the second set. 6th game of the second set, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Game Sampras.
Well, I'm thinking the same thing as you are. Yeah. Fault number 5, and he's had a couple, what he considered a couple of bad calls in that game. Tony Pickard, his wife, looking on there, so he's practicing the service toss. Stefan Edberg very frustrated with his efforts on the serve. He often frames that. You can see he's very slow getting that racket head up and through, so on occasions he does miss-hit that kick serve and frames it out wide. That one missed by a good 10 feet.
Well, the kick serve is a little bit like a topspin forehand. I mean, you will frame them sometimes because that's how you get the spin on the shot. 4-2 Sampras serving second set. 5 double false for Edberg. Scores are just going for him every which way, aren't they? They've played against each other 3 times before. The last time they played was here at the Thriftway ATP Championships.
Great reflexes that time because the ball hit the net, the volley hit the net, and Sampras was able to pick it off.
Edberg won the first 2, and then Sampras won here last year. Lost to Guy Forget in the final.
More. 30-15.
.23 mile an hour, that last serve from Sampras, right on the line.
That's
109 on that one. It sounded harder to me. Anyway, game point for Sampras for a 5-2 lead. I suppose it's that much of an upset for the number 3 player in the world to beat the number 2 player in the world, but excuse me, like 6-2, 6-3, that's something else.
40-30.
His only double fault so far, Sampras. And we mentioned 5 of them for Edberg.
Talked to Edberg about playing on clay and then coming to the hard courts, and he said that he thinks it's actually pretty not a bad idea because you really build up your fitness on the clay courts because you have to do so much more running.
This is one of the few passing shots we've seen from Edberg, but it's not a good approach. He's got time to set up. Look at the way he sets himself up and leans into that backhand. It may give him a bit of confidence. Turns the shoulder, steps onto the front foot, leans in. As he plants that front foot, that's when he contacts the ball.
Second serve, big moment for Sampras. He has just got the break. Tim Gullickson, Sampras' coach. Oh, that's just a very well played shot from Sampras on the second serve. Stayed back and then whipped the forehand down the line. Not a real high percentage play, but that's why Edberg had no idea that's where he was going, and Sampras drew the error. Game point.
Game simple.
So Pete Sampras of the USA taking on Sweden's Stefan Edberg, and this crowd is kind of stunned. They're almost silent, wondering what's going on. 6-2, 5-2 for Sampras. I don't think there are many folks here who would have expected this to happen. Say that with some certainty. 6-2 first set to Sampras, 5-2 second set to Sampras. He's played very, very beautiful tennis, and he is, after all, the number 3 player in the world, playing against Stefan Edberg at number 2. Jim Courier is at number 1. Edberg really cannot catch Courier even if he wins this tournament. As a matter of fact, Courier is pretty much assured to be #1 unless there's a dramatic change for the rest of the year. Pete Sampras not that far behind Edberg, though, as you can see. And Michael Chang in the top 5. Started out the year very strong, Michael Chang, and he is still alive in this tournament.
15 all.
Only 47%, and that is just not a good percentage for him. 48% of points he's won even when he gets the first serve in. And broken 4 times. So you would have to say that for Stefan Edberg, these are probably the worst serving statistics that you have ever seen. Of course, Sampras has had something to do with that. Big returner serve, and
30-15.
we are at 30-15. Interesting from Sampras. You saw the block return on that replay, and that time on the backhand, he just whacked right through the ball. Very different kind of shot. Both worked for him. 30 all. Sampras potentially 2 points away from the match. Oh, good stretch from Edberg, and it wasn't more than about a couple of feet from the net when he made contact with that ball.
40-30.
Take a look at this one again. Now keep your eye on Stefan Edberg here. Watch this, how he closes in. A couple of feet. No, that might be exaggerating. You'll see by the time he finished, though, he probably was. Started out about 4 feet. I mean, the point is he was very close to the net when he hit the ball.
Game
Edberg holds on. For how much longer, we'll find out in just a minute. Fred Stolle has made his way down to courtside in anticipation of talking to our winner. So we'll watch this last game and see whether Pete Sampras can close it out. 5-3, he leads, and 1 set to love. Remind you, $98,600 to the winner of this match.
15 all.
The winner of the tournament will take home $187,500. 15 love. Huh. 5 aces for Sampras. Balanced by about as many double faults from Edberg. 30 love.
40 all.
Just hasn't been Stefan Edberg's day. Started out slowly. 118-mile-an-hour serve from Pete Sampras, and serving like that has just made things even worse for him.
Game 7 minutes simple.
Couple of close calls went against Edberg, I suppose. That was a factor as well, but not much, because the man from Sweden never complains about things like that and does not seem to be affected anymore by adversity of that kind. Pete Sampras in a brilliant display, winning in straight sets easily, losing only 5 games to the #2 player in the world, Stefan Edberg. Pete Sampras happy probably to be back on the hard courts, and Stefan Edberg must be wondering whether he should have made the trip to the USA after all. A semi-final list losing effort by Stefan Edberg. Sampras is in the final.